This is a homework help video for Advanced Algebra Lesson 4.1. We're going to look at 4 problems in this video. The first one being number 14. Number 14 gives you a matrix and asks for its dimensions. When you're listing the dimensions, you are deciding how many rows and columns there are in the matrix. Rows go from left to right. So there are 2 rows in this matrix. Row 1, element 17, negative 2, 8, negative 9, 6. Row 2, 5, 11, 20, negative 1, 4. There are 2 rows in this matrix. Columns go from top to bottom. So there are 5 columns in this matrix. So the dimensions are 2 by 5. 2 rows, 5 columns. Second problem we're going to look at is number 18, which gives you 2 equivalent matrices and asks you to solve. Find the values for x and y. What that means is that we are now able to set elements that are in the same location in their respective matrix equal to each other. In other words, in row 1, column 1, I have 4x. In my second matrix, in row 1, column 1, I have 15 plus x. Those elements are equal. So I can say row 1, column 1 is equal to row 1, column 1. And now I algebraically solve for x. I'll subtract x from both sides. I'll divide both sides by 3. X is equal to 5. I do the same kind of thinking and process, but this time for row 2, column 1. Row 2, column 1, the first matrix is a 5. That will be equal to row 2, column 1 in the second matrix, or 2y minus 1. And I again algebraically solve for y. I'll add 1 to both sides. I'll divide both sides by 2. I now have solved for y. The solution number 18, x is equal to 5, y is equal to 3. Third problem is number 22, very similar to number 18 in the fact that we have 2 equivalent matrices. And we're going to do the same thinking process again, setting elements that are in the same location equal to each other. So for number 22, row 1, column 1, on the left matrix, is 2x. That's equal to row 1, column 1 in the second matrix, or y. I set the other 2 elements equal to each other because they are in the same location, row 2, column 1. In other words, 2x plus 3y is equal to 12. Now in this instance, because I have x and y's in both equations, I can think of it as a system. And I can use my algebraic solving techniques for systems, substitution or elimination, to find x and y. If I'm looking at this system, I see that we have one equation solved for y, which means I can substitute 2x any other place that I see a y. Say, for instance, right there. And I can then create an equation that only has one type of variable. In other words, I don't have something with x and y. After my substitution, I will have an equation that only has x's. And I again go through and algebraically solve for x. I'll multiply 3 times 2x. I'll add my like terms to get 8x. And now I will divide both sides by 8. I'm kind of getting low on room, so I'm going to put my answer on the top of the page. 12 divided by 8 is 1.5. I have solved for x. X is 1.5. I still need to find y. So again, I could perform another substitution, because every time I see an x, I can replace it with 1.5. Say, for instance, right there. And instead of saying 2x equals y, 2 times 1.5 equals y. I perform my multiplication, and I have algebraically solved for y. Y is equal to 3. And there's my solution to number 22. X is 1.5, y is equal to 3. Last problem we're going to look at is number 30. It's a story problem. It asks you to write a 3x2 matrix involving hotel prices. Now you notice there are 3 different types of rooms. There's a single, a double, a suite. 2 different prices for each of those rooms. A weekday price, a weekend price. Going back to that first problem, when we have dimensions, the first one is the rows, 3 rows. The second one is the columns. So since we have 2 different types of prices, that's going to be our columns, weekday, weekend. We have 3 different types of rooms, that's going to be our rows. So, for instance, row 1 could be the single room. Row 2, the double room. Row 3, the suite. We put the room types as rows because there's 3 of them, and it asks for a 3-row matrix. For my columns, I have 2 columns. I have 2 different types of prices. I have weekday prices. I have weekend. 2 different types of prices, 2 columns. And I go and I fill in now the prices for a specific room on a specific day. Like for a single on a weekday, $60. Single on a weekend, $79. Double on a weekday, $70. Double on a weekend, $89. Suite on a weekday, $75. Suite on a weekend, $95. I have now represented the hotel room pricing in a 3x2 matrix.